Hello, hello. It's kind of chilly today, so that's why I have my winter jacket on. And I thought I'll bring my giraffe in again. Hello, how are you guys all doing? I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you're all safe, and I hope you're all feeling good. That's the most important thing, that we feel good, yes, and that we are petted, yes, always petted, petty, 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 as much as possible, yes, that's very, very important. And we can cry together sometimes, yes, and we then can tell each other nice stories into each other's ears, yes, and whisper into the ear, and that feels good. Yes, it does. So, I want to talk about the cluster C help centers. And just to give a quick overview again, so we have cluster A, cluster B, and cluster C, and these already exist in the psychiatric community, and that's where I picked it up. But I personally, because I'm establishing in theory therapy centers that have to be first, I when I first came up with this idea, I thought about just one type of therapy center for everyone. And then I thought about it, and more and more and more. And then I thought, oh no, we actually need two. We need one where the homeless people are being brought into it and washed and taken care of. They need to be taught hygiene and all of these things. So we can't mix the functioning people together with the non-functioning people. That wouldn't be fair to the functioning people, because the non-functioning people are, they're not hygienic, they don't smell good, they are disruptive, they break bottles and so on, so we have to separate those. And then I thought about it more and more, and then I thought, okay, we also need the cluster B help centers, because they are a group for themselves. Those are the violent ones. And in the psychiatric terminology, there are slight variations, of course. So I am not copying this totally. I'm just, and these are also just ideas for names. This can be named completely differently. I'm just saying this in order to understand it, how we are going to be organizing this, according to the different types of personality disorders and characters and characteristics of mental illness and dysfunction. And those are all different forms. Many of them come from different pathologies and also genetic dispositions. The whole thing is not as simplistic as we want to believe it is. It is much more convoluted and much more complex. So the cluster B, as I already said, I put all the violent people in it. And for example, in the psychiatric terminology, cluster B also includes the histrionic personality disorders, which are people that are extremely extroverted, narcissistic, and, well, definitely on a sociopathic range. But I would not put someone into the cluster B help center who is just histrionic or narcissistic, and who is just someone who wants to be a star and wants to elbow other people out of the way. That's not enough to put them in cluster B in my view, because we're organizing this now into the different help centers where we actually have to have very specific personnel, very specific social workers and detention officers and so on that have to work there. So someone who is just into themselves but not hurting another living being, they're not belonging into the cluster B help center. So they belong into, depending on their functionality, into either cluster A or cluster C help center. So probably I would say cluster C if it's someone who's just narcissistic, like myself. My husband complains about this a lot. It's like, why do you always have to show your face? Well, I guess maybe I am a little bit narcissistic. I admit to that. And it's very painful to admit these kind of things. Most people don't want to admit that, they'll find some kind of excuse. And I'm very quick with that. I'll say, oh no, I need to make videos because I want people to know there's an actual person behind this, and I find it more, more personal and more welcoming if there's an actual person that is interacting with you, and I really interact. I really do a dialogue, as Dr. Grande calls it. It generates an interesting dialogue. That's what he always says. But it's good that he welcomes comments, but he doesn't comment back. So if he doesn't comment back, then no dialogue is generated. It is a one lopsided monologue, or some people write monologues like I do, and some people write short comments. But it's not a dialogue. Dia means two ways, it's like communication, So I do that. So I am willing to do this. So I would be more on the the vulnerable narcissist, on that scale, but very mellow. I'm a mellow narcissist, okay? I'm not an asshole, as a lot of people probably will label me in the groups, in those chat groups. They will label me Satan. I heard it all, which any kind of horrific name, particularly, predator type of names that I get bombarded with. And I am not, I am absolutely not. I'm the opposite. I want to make the world a better place. Just because I have some radical views doesn't mean I am bad, as they call it. Nikki is bad. No, I'm not. Okay. I'm a real kind-hearted, gentle person. I have infinite love in me. I want everyone to be free from suffering. Okay, that is my mission for the world. So, but yes, I also have I have a little bit histrionic. I have a little bit narcissism. I have borderline. Definitely, I was diagnosed by Annalise when I was already like 10 years old. And yeah, that's been going through my entire life. But that also, borderline, it also has to do with genetics, a highly sensitive child surrounded by not so sensitive adults. That often leads to borderline, They literally make you crazy, So, but, crazy in the sense of borderline where you you just, you can snap, you can overreact here and there, but not crazy in the sense of where it gets into those ranges of schizophrenia and psychosis, So, but one can easily be pushed into this. That can easily happen in a cruel world, very easily. And that's why I would never judge someone who falls into the cluster A, into the schizoid personality disorders that are psychotic or schizophrenic. I had a schizophrenic boyfriend in Germany, so I know, and I had friends, also women friends, who were schizophrenic, and I have talked to those people, so I know what's going on. My mother, I would say, is also falling into that range, with anosognosia and just extreme visceral denial, where there is a split in the personality happening, and it goes so far that she does split actually into two different personalities, but it wasn't coming out. Didn't announce itself as that, so it would just, according to the situation, one or the other personality would take over, and not good. It's not good for a highly sensitive person to grow up with someone like this. Definitely not. But again, from a wider angle, I don't judge people. I don't put the judge hammer down. So, but for these different groups, I group them in the way where we have the dangerous people in one group, cluster B, help center. Those are all dangerous people, violent people, whatever their reason for what violence was, they will be put into this. And the homeless people and the schizoid people and the highly dysfunctional people go into the cluster A help center. And the cluster C help center that will be the only one of the three that will be open, that will not be locked up. It's not a locked station, it is a walk-in. It is a help center where the whole community can go to, also where, any kind of social worker can go to, also, anyone. But I do recommend for the prison guards, I'm going to use that word only to make this more understood, but I will not use the word prison or prison guard. I'm just using this now for clarification purposes. So the people that work in the cluster B detention center, because it's gonna be a detention center, it's gonna be the prisons that are being recycled into cluster B detention centers. So it sounds a lot better, or I would not even call it detention center, but only to make it more understandable at this point. So cluster B help centers, and they'll have social workers, and they will have guards there. And these guards, they have to also attend therapy and group therapy, but that will be happening on the premises of the cluster B help centers. I'll make another part because 50 minutes is like, that goes by so quickly. So, and then the cluster C is open for everyone, for the whole community, and I think it would be very good if everyone, I have to make another part, if everyone would go there every day and attend the group sessions. So I'll make another part.